What does it take and what does it look like for a fighter to evolve, to get better? Fighters have, in my opinion, when I look at this topic, I look at chapters in a fighter's career. Allow me to put some context on it. So you've got the beginning of a fighter's career where he's trying to make a name for himself. How does he make a name for himself? Well, he makes a name for himself by winning his fights, right? He wants to build that record up. Then there's this second chapter to where the fights become important, right? The fights become really important because A, it validates him, right? As a fighter, who he fights validates who he is. If you're fighting, subpar competition, then people will give you your credit for doing what you're doing, but at the same time, they'll never really know who you are because in the back of their mind, they'll never know what you would do if you would have, hit that level of competition. So it becomes more important in this chapter. This may probably the most important chapter in a fighter's career, because this is where we really get to judge or get questions answered about what we may think of this fighter, negative or positive. So this chapter is very important. And then you have that third chapter, right, where they've already built their name. They are who they are. We know them for who they're going to be. And I think the fighter starts to aim and focus more on money at that point. Let's get the biggest fights we can get before we leave, because we're getting ready to leave. And, we want to, this is about generational wealth. We're here. This is our job. This is what we're doing to pay the bills, to take care of our grandchildren, right? Our great-great-grandchildren. The fighter starts thinking about things of that nature. Not all fighters take that path that way, though, right? So, for example, you look at a Gervonta Tank Davis. I think we all know when we see him and we see the skill set, we understand that he's a once-in-a-generation fighter. He brings speed, he brings power, clearly explosive power. And we can see his IQ, right? But it seems that Gervonta hasn't hit that chapter yet to where, or maybe he is there right now, presently, right? In that chapter where what we know and what we understand is based on the eye test, but hasn't necessarily been validated in reference to the competition that he's fought. He's in that chapter now where he's ready to do that, right? What do I mean? He's ready to fight the Shakur Stevenses, the Devin Haney's, the Teofimos, the Lomachenkos, and the list goes on, right? He's ready. He's made the money at this point. He's done it the opposite way, right? He's actually, because of the luck of, the fact that he was able to align himself with the Floyd Mayweathers of not the Floyd Mayweathers, because how many Floyd Mayweathers are there, right? Being that he got to align with Floyd Mayweather, specifically Leonard Ellerbe, and people who are really intelligent in understanding what it takes to make the money. And he got to get right underneath the GOAT and did the right thing, by the way. The bag is here, let's get the bag now, right? I think if Floyd wasn't there, he'd have been more concerned. I think he would have fought certain people like the Shakur Stevenses and the Devin Haney. He would have fought them already. He would have been looking for those fights because he'd have been looking to build his name up, and that's how you build your name up, is by fighting those kind of fights. But being that you had Floyd next to you, and also he brought that X factor, right? The element of the knockout, the show, the sellability, you know what I mean? The fact that people were loving this guy and what he brought to the ring, and he was an exciting fighter. So he didn't have to go through it like everybody else did. But at the same time, as a boxing fan who understands styles make fights and understands what it looks like, what a great fight looks like, we've also had to kind of sit back, enjoy the show, but at the same time, we know what we want to see and why we want to see it. We know what we want to see and why we want to see it. And we haven't with Gervonta quite yet. But I think, once again, we all pretty much know what we're looking at. And we just want the questions answered. So what makes a great fighter, and how does a fighter get better? Well, a fighter gets better based on the competition, based on his training, his commitment, right, to his craft, um, the different looks that we get to see him in, adversity. That might be the main word that we're looking for, right? The two things is commitment, but the biggest one is the adversity he faces. Um, reminds me of the New Edition song, "Sunny Days, Everybody Loves That." Sing it, hey, can you? So we want to know what you're gonna do when your back's against the wall, when it's not looking so right for you. How do you adjust to those situations? And a lot of fighters haven't been presented with that opportunity. And I say opportunity because that's what it is. It's an opportunity to show us who you are. And we look for our favorite fighters, a little part of us look for them to face that adversity in the ring. We want to see it, not always, but at least once we want to see it so we understand and we get the questions answered and the boxes checked on who this fighter is and have something to reference to. Makes us more confident in the fighter, the adversity. So, some fighters haven't had that opportunity. I think when you look at Errol Spence, as far as inside of the ring was concerned, we didn't get to see him face that kind of adversity. We didn't see him facing something that was greater than what he anticipated on seeing, and him adjusting properly and coming out on that other side with a victory. Outside the ring, we saw him, get into a big accident and was there to witness his journey on coming back, healing. We saw his heart and that he didn't take any warm-up fights and that he went directly right back in the fire, took up where he left, came right back into a Danny Garcia fight and showed the world that, the accident wasn't going to stop him from what showed him to be a dog, have a real strong personality, and we respected that for him. And that definitely was if anything positive came out of that accident in our situation, which not much I say, because he almost lost his life, injuries that he may have for the rest of his life that he has to deal with, teeth, issues. I mean, not too much positive came out of that, but if anything positive that did come out of that for Errol Spence was that the world got to see him come back from some real adversity. But as far as in the ring, we didn't get to really see that. And it made you wonder once you saw him fight Terrence, like, man, wow, when you really think about it with hindsight, when do we see him have to? He didn't have to. His style, his approach that him and Derek came up with was pretty efficient and worked against everybody to the point to where they would just became very confident in it. And some might say today, with hindsight, once again, that maybe a little overconfident, right, in it. And that sometimes life throws you curveballs, and you should learn how to hit a curveball for when that day comes. You should learn how to hit one, right? You might be good with the fastball, and you might be blessed that, like, all the pitchers that you've been going against have been throwing these fastballs, and you've been able to knock it out the park. But then every now and then you got a pitcher who comes up on the field, and he's got a different idea about how he's going to approach it. He's like, this dude been hitting fastballs. I'm going to throw him curveballs all night long. Let's see how he deals with it. And that's when we get to see who you are in those situations. The question also, I guess at this point, is as far as Gervonta Tank Davis, have we seen that? Have we seen him face enough adversity? I feel like we have seen some adversity in him. I don't think it was as extreme as Errol, because I think with Gervonta, we have seen him fight different ways. Even if he didn't have to, I think he has. Like when he fought Rolly, he didn't fight Rolly the same way. You know what I'm saying? He fought Leo Santa Cruz, right? He's walked some fighters down. He's fought going backwards. He's shown us what he can do. But I think the thing with him is we haven't seen him presented, or I don't know. Sometimes fighters are so good, they make great fighters look so regular that we feel like, like they just still ain't been challenged yet. And I don't know, you can take it with a grain of salt, you know what I mean? But I'll say this though. To make a great fighter, adversity is a big element in that conversation. I think you know, the pressure. The pressure is a vital part of the process of making a diamond, right? Very vital. Diamonds don't just sit there and, you know, live their best life in the sun and catching the breeze all day and they become diamonds. They actually just stay pieces of coal. A diamond is turned is turned into. So there's a process of making a diamond. Diamond just aren't made. There's a amount of pressure that's involved in the diamond being made, and that's what, you know, we look to see. And I think a lot of fighters today are missing that element, right? We don't get to see them that way because a lot of fighters are on the Floyd Mayweather program, you know, the Floyd Mayweather snack program, which is this is how you make a star and how you make money. And unfortunately, we got a lot of undefeated fighters in boxing today who are very concerned with keeping their record that way, and we don't necessarily get to see the fights we want to see. If you really are honest about it and just, you know, use your critical thinking skills and your observation skills, you know, we're dealing with that on a regular basis. So, what does it take to make a great fighter? Adversity. And usually the fighter who's faced the most adversity and conquered the most adversity becomes the better fighter. They usually deal with situations differently. You look at Terrence Crawford, he dealt with some adversities, you know what I mean? Outside of being shot in his head, but also, you know, breaking his arm as a child, having to learn how to use the other arm, you know, being sat on his ass by Gamboa, facing adversity with me. You know, these different things disciplined him in a certain way that, you know, makes it harder to penetrate. You know what I mean? Makes it harder to penetrate the fighter's weak points. It takes away weak points. He becomes stronger in these areas, and all of a sudden, you know, he's a driver. He's a fighter who's only weak in certain spaces, and it becomes a chess match to beat these kind of fighters. They don't have obvious weaknesses because they face the proper adversity, just like a muscle. You know what I mean? That muscle has been worked, so it's a strong muscle. You know, whereas another fighter who hasn't had to use the other muscles, who's only got away with using a certain kind of muscle, you know, if you're not putting that working in the gym and being honest about who you are, even with your sparring partners, right? Who are you sparring with? Are they giving you the looks? Are you having difficult sparring sessions, or are you just walking dudes down and beating dudes up, and everybody's cheering you like, yeah, you're unstoppable? I mean, that's good too. You know, I mean, I guess you need that as well, but at the same time, you know, you need the adversity. You know, Mike Tyson, and I'm gonna dip off because I don't even want to stay on here long. But Mike Tyson just put a documentary out on the process of getting Ngannou ready for the Tyson Fury fight, right? And there was a small little part in the documentary where Tyson asked Ngannou. Tyson's telling the story of him asking Ngannou, was he sore that day? What he said, "Are you sore?" And Ngannou said, "No, I'm straight, man. I'm not sore." And then Tyson said, "You know, that's probably the biggest mistake he ever made." You know what I mean? Was saying that because him being sore was important. Tyson said he felt a little insulted, like felt a little embarrassed, like, "Oh, what you did? You went through all that?" And, nah, man, I'm here. You got to be sore. I need you to face. I need you to hit a wall, man. You to hit a wall because that's the way you're gonna learn how to go through the wall. But if you've never hit the wall, you know, so you guys tell me what you think. What does it take to be a great fighter, and how are you judging these fighters to make them great? You know what I mean? Is it important who they fight? Are you giving them all these accolades before they fight who you need them to fight? Let me know. You know what I mean? Please remember, comment, subscribe, guys. You know what I mean? Hit the subscription button. Subscribe for me, please. You know what I mean? So you can get on the algorithm and you can get alerts when I'm putting these out. I'm interested in your perspective, negative, positive, whatever have you, like, unlike, you know, however you feel like carrying it. But at the end of the day, subscribe. Um, and at this point, and we've discussed what I want to discuss. We out, man. You know what I mean? It's your boy, Claymore Rain, and it's the ATP Combat Media Show. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.